Hello and welcome to the Car Care Auto Reviews channel, and welcome to the 2026 Hyundai Ioniq 9. And in today's video, we're going to do a proper technical review under the hood, underneath the car, inside and out, some things we like, some things we do not like, right after this. Let's start our technical review under the hood. You may be wondering, why are we starting under the hood? It's an electric car, there's a front here, some storage. You'd be very mistaken, as you can see here. Let's dive in, because I want to start by saying this car is a very special car on the stuff behind the scenes, because in previous electric cars from Hyundai, we always said things are rudimentary, initial, they're just starting. Things are all over the place. Here though, this is a step in the right direction. I mean, this is such a leap that puts this seriously on the map of electric cars. Let's dive in and we'll talk about why. The biggest problem with electric cars is thermal management. That's really the biggest challenge, because two problems. How do you heat and cool the lithium-ion battery, which likes to operate at an exact temperature range for it to be happy? How do you cool and heat the cabin so you can keep the passengers comfortable while maintaining an efficient range? That's the challenge, because you don't have an engine that generates heat. So extreme weather, extreme hot, extreme cold, the system will suffer to cope. Here's the biggest single change here. They introduced something called a coolant hub driver. So this is their attempt at combining things and making the system smaller. See, the more coolant hoses and HVAC lines you have and all over the place, refrigerant lines, the more losses you have. The more compact things are, the less losses you have. Therefore, the system would be more efficient. Let's start with the cooling system, because this is very interesting. You have two cooling systems in this car, two radiators, and the HVAC system kind of ties into it. First system is for the battery itself. Coolant runs to the battery to cool it. That coolant, electric pump routes it to one of the radiators, and then it goes back and cools the battery. If the weather is too hot and the battery is getting too hot, they will rely on the HVAC system called the refrigerant, which will cool the coolant, which will then cool the battery. That exchange is one of the first exchanges between the refrigerant and the coolant. That happens in a component called the battery chiller. That is pretty standard in electric cars. But then the second circuit is a circuit that cools the onboard charger, the inverters, which are two inverters, front and back, and in this particular one that has dual motor. This is the unit that drives the motor, regenerates, and kind of sends power where it needs to go. And then the motors themselves, all the system is tied in with the larger radiator, the high temperature radiator. But then these two circuits are able to exchange heat as well through the coolant hub driver, which is pretty cool. The reason these systems are intermixed is when things get very cold. Well, you're going to scrape any source of heat to get heat so you can heat up the battery, because remember, if the battery is too cold, we also have a problem. But if things get very dire and we cannot heat the battery effectively because we have no heat, single digit outside, we're trying to really heat things up, there is a battery coolant heater. So that's gonna warm up the coolant electrically, is gonna use electric power, then warm up the battery until things catch up. But things will catch up quickly, because this system does not have a lot of losses. With miles and miles of hoses all over the place, things are compact. That is pretty cool. Now, very important in electric cars is the HVAC system. This one has a state-of-the-art heat pump system. Super sophisticated heat pump system, very rapid, and just cuts through a lot of the typical complication of heat pump systems. Really impressive. Here's how this works. Heat pump system is basically an AC system that's able to flip things around. And now the hot side is inside, which is going to cool the cabin. But they didn't do it like most manufacturers do. This car has an evaporator inside the car, which that's the AC part. That's the part that gets cold. It has a condenser on the outside, which is what's going to have the hot refrigerant that's going to get cooled. Very small air-to-air condenser, because there is a little twist here, which is very smart. But when you want to heat the cabin, you have an inside condenser which is the way to do this, not coolant to a heater core. That is pretty cool. But here's where it gets even better. In addition to the air-to-air condenser that it has a liquid-to-air condenser. For times that you do not want too much cooling for the condenser, they can actually use that other one. But the other time they can use it is because the refrigerant will be flipped and you'll have the hot side inside, cold side outside. You don't want to put it in the front. You use the other one, and the coolant, once it comes up to operating temperature, because the battery is warming up, the motors are warming up and everything, you can actually use the coolant to kind of heat up the refrigerant, and that aids in the operation of the heat pump. I mean, this is a leap for Hyundai. And I gotta say one thing, we've always, every single electric car we've reviewed, there's always a mess, hoses all over the place, and we always say Tesla's got it right because they compacted everything. Now this one does not take it to that level, but looking at a previous system from Hyundai and now, this is a big leap and a move in the right direction. Things are not a mess. It may appear to be a mess. This is not, folks. Now, they're not as compact, an octo valve and that level of Tesla, but this is a lot closer to that. This has two three-way valves. One of them is on the coolant driver, which can switch between systems. One of them is on the side. But you notice the coolant hoses are congregated on the passenger side and a little bit to the front. Nothing on the driver's side. Usually that's not the case. You notice they're compacting things. Now, the HVAC system is a very sophisticated heat pump system, so component-wise, it's going to be all over the place. There's no way around it, but pretty smart. Now, not to the level of Tesla where they have only 3 lines going in, but still, this is a move in the right direction. They have an inside condenser. Now, with that, there are a few observations here, which are very interesting. Even though this has a pretty big dash, the HVAC unit inside only has the evaporator and inside condenser. The blower motor is actually outside the car. That's a pretty cool thing, which makes the cabin filter here in the front very easily accessible. Other observations are, which is not on the good side, every single coolant hose and elbow is plastic. And there's a distinct plastic piece that feels so cheap on the front inverter. Why are you using this style? I mean, this system is so impressive. Why all the plastic stuff? I mean, the HVAC system build quality is impeccable, but the coolant plastic hoses, they just feel very cheap, and I fear there will be a problem that will affect reliability in the future with coolant leaks and stuff like that. Plastic is a terrible idea with cooling systems, especially one that is this high-tech. Having said that, this of course has electric compressor. We're actually going to take a quick peek at it when we're underneath the car. Things are much better, and the byproduct of all this change and all this improvement, this car has 3 configurations. We're going to talk about them here in a moment. They all share the same battery, 110.3 kilowatt hour battery. All the 3 configurations. Pretty interesting choice there. They all get over 300 miles. Folks, this is a massive car that is as much aerodynamic as they tried to make it. It's a giant SUV. Over 300 miles in all different configurations. Speaking of the configurations, it's a little bit strange on the configurations because they're labeling them by the output of the system. So you have the base model, which is rear-wheel drive, 160 kilowatts output. Then you have the second configuration, which is 160 plus 75. They're talking about the power of the motors themselves. And then the third configuration, 160 kilowatt plus 160 kilowatt. But here's the problem. That's the power of the motor alone. Put the drive train and everything, put like the axles and everything, there's some loss, so it turns out to be less. Except the rear-wheel drive model has 160 kilowatt output. The next one has less than 160 plus 75, and the third one has definitely less than 160 plus 160. That's just how they did this. So there's 3 configurations, but they all share the same battery. It's just the output of the motors themselves is what changes it. Folks, the range on this car, although our testing, we are a little bit on the hotter side of things, 80 degrees up to 90 degrees. We didn't test it in cold weather. It holds the range very impressively and does get 300 miles. Now, some of the figures on charging, this does have an onboard charging, so you can AC charge it from your outlet at home or level 2 charging. But we're more interested in fast charging. Fast charging, if you charge it at the proper charging station, it can charge from 10% to 80% in 24 minutes. That's pretty impressive because that's a big battery and this is a big car. I can live with that. That's actually a short time, folks. I really commend Hyundai for moving in this direction. They're not kind of copying somebody else. They're innovating their own design, and this works. Third iteration of this, and Tesla might have a serious problem on their hand, because here's the reality. I'm just gonna sidetrack from this video a little bit. Everything about Tesla is great except the car. Their electric system is top. There's nothing that comes close to it, but the rest of the car is kind of a problem. This, on the other hand, the rest of the car is impeccable. Electric system usually suffers, but this one, it's catching up. It's only a matter of time. Let's take a look underneath the 2026 Ioniq 9. Just like all electric cars, everything is covered. The only thing I'm noticing here is softer covers and a lot of openings, especially when you come to the side here. Everything is kind of wide open. Same thing on this side. You can see literally the compressor is right there. That's interesting, but could be worse. Look at the front suspension. Interestingly enough, this is one of the few cars that has McPherson strut at the top and a 2-piece, 2-ball joint control arms. They're both aluminum, knuckle is aluminum, and that's how they went with this one. Interesting. 2-piston caliper in the front, kind of bigger brakes for an electric car. It is a bigger vehicle, I can understand that. Sway bar is steel, which I really like that. Now, we walk back here. This is the battery. Pretty well covered. I like how it goes all the way to the edge. It does leave a slight opening where debris can actually go on top of it. Not the end of the world, but I wish that was covered a little bit more. But what I love about this is electric cars are weird enough. Lift points are completely normal. Just front one, rear one, pinch weld. Nothing crazy about this one. Now, as we make our way back, if you look here, here are all the connections for the battery. It's your high voltage cables, low voltage cables. Everything is connected right here. You can see some of the coolant lines that run. This is actually not the one for the battery, but this is the style that they're using here, because this is where the rear motor is, and these actually 2 coolant lines are going to the rear motor inverters on top of it. It's all covered, same type of cover. It's not a strong cover. Let's look at the rear suspension here. You do have an aluminum knuckle, aluminum lower control arm with a giant shock right here, and the spring separate. 3 of the control arms, interesting enough, are steel. This one, and this one. That's how they went with this. Giant axle and this style where they don't have a big boot here. Single piston caliper in the back with the integrated parking brake on it. If we go all the way in the back here, of course, being an electric car, you don't have exhaust. Everything is fully covered. Here's the cool thing. You know, we're going to look at the outside in a bit here. The squares that they use all over this car, it even made it here. How about that? Let's take a look at the outside of the Ioniq 9. I just say one thing. Over the top is an understatement for this car. It is over the top. A lot that's going on. Let's talk about it. First thing is, this panel here, if you really look at it under a certain reflection, you can see a series of squares. And I'm going to promise you one thing, that is not the last time you see squares, because the level of obsession with squares in this car, actually all Hyundai's electric cars, is over the top. It's a bit much on this one because this is a big car. For example, this little strip of LED lights that are running lights, they're all squares. all over. Then the actual headlights, which are here, they're also squares. And then this little cornering light, that's also squares. What I love about this though, this looks so sophisticated, very cool, because they have the lights inside and they have this glass on top of them. It just looks very nice. That is very nice. Now the radar sensor, if you notice the kind of the silhouette of it, that's not a square. It's very nice that that is not a square. And then the camera is right here, of course, a square. Then these two are actually aerodynamic vents or cooling vents that are close when you don't need them, open when you do, so you can cool the radiators. They're I mean, I'm imagining this is what the future is like. We're gonna be so fascinated by this stuff, just like back in the 60s and 70s when cars had a hideaway headlight. That's how we used to get fascinated by that too. So there is that. Moving away from that, actually, I'm just gonna say this, and I'm gonna get in trouble for it. The hood is simple. You only have two lines. That's about the only simple panel in this car, because everything else is over the top. Starting with here, let me just have you look at this section. Initially, it's just a section. There is so much going on here, it is unbelievable. Let's dive into the details here. So this is the fender. Fender actually goes all the way down, but behind this cover, and then the fender gets super skinny here visually, but it's actually all the way down and all the way down. Then you have this panel, which goes all the way around. And then watch the bumper. The bumper actually does go down behind this as well, because that's where this clips into. But watch this section of the bumper is just this one. Then the fender has this interesting shape to it. Just a lot going on here. And I don't even understand what is this. This is the part that makes it too much. Now the fender is raised a little bit, not too much, not like the back one, which we'll get to in a moment. You do have this line. I actually really like this line. Except, if you follow this line, you see how the back comes out? And it just disturbs that line in a way that I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about it. Before we get to it though, the mirror. This is something with electric cars. We saw this actually in the Cybertruck as well. They curve this down, assuming something for aerodynamic. It makes the mirror not very usable, because that's the part where you see blind spot or whatnot. I guess the car has blind spot monitor, but still. Then the door handles. So the front one you can lock, unlock, the rear ones you can't. I understand in this segment, but these are hideaway handles. Understandably so for aerodynamics, but really dislike these, because I like the light. The light's pretty cool, but there are mechanical handles at least, so there is that at least. But dislike these hiding handles, because when they break, you're going to be struggling to open this door. That's the problem, and they do tend to break from all the cars that have them. Let's go to the BizBack section though, because there's interesting stuff here. First, this is significantly pushed out. You notice where that curve starts. It just, yeah, it's a lot. And that's the starter of this section. And there are very few cars out there that has this, that actually runs the entire length of the car. When we get to the back, you'll see it. We also have this little strange thing, which now goes into the door as well, just for good measure. I do like this, that this window is big. Could have been bigger if this was straight, but it's a proper window. This panel is actually steel, which I really like that part. Here's a charging door. Let's do the flimsy door test. Half and half, let's put it this way. So the cool thing about this is also you have some squares here showing you the overall level of charge. This door, when you push it, is actually pushing one of these buttons. This one closes it. Pretty cool. You also have 4 squares here for good measure. Let's look at the back, because this is where we're divided on this. We are having an argument about this one, because on the one hand, they started on a good note, and then things went south so badly. Let's talk about it. If you've been around cars for a long time, Forget about the rest. What does this part of the taillight remind you of? I want you to see it from this angle. The unmistakable Volvo taillight. That's what we call that. Volvo is, as far as I remember, the only company that has a curve like this that goes the length of the car. Because of that, the taillight have that shape. Of course, taillight's full of squares. The part that is much is when we wrapped it around. It just feels too much. But I can understand why they did it that way. Because if you don't do it that way, then you just copied Volvo. That's the problem. Then there are more interesting stuff. I love this. Do you see how they like kind of imprinted the letters into the panel and then they put the silver to fill it? It just looks beautiful. There's no other way to say it. And they had to leave the cameras outside. Guess they could have just maybe put them down here, and they're not as... It feels like the car is incomplete. And then we have more lights and reflectors and squares. Then there's this. This is a copy-paste. This is the problem when we copy and paste stuff. This is just for the logo. It takes up from your visibility in the back, and there's nothing behind it. It's just there to put the logo. Do have a problem with that. But what I don't have a problem with, this has a bumper. It's not big, but still. Newer cars are getting rid of their bumper. Like, you have some leeway between you and the little thing you may hit before you damage the back door, and that is pretty cool. Speaking of the back door, let's take a look. This particular one has a power back door. Pretty fast power back door. They are both electric motors. Their wires are actually right here, which is not the best place, but it's much better than going into the headliner. So there is that. I gotta say, for a 3-row SUV, this is a decent space. This is actually a very good space. What makes it even better, this angle is almost straight. So you can load stuff up to here. We don't have a problem. It's not sloped where the top is useless. That is pretty cool. You do have a little bit of storage here. Folks, electric cars usually will not have a lot of storage here because that's where the motor and the sheet metal kind of curves up and the inverter, so they can't put a lot. There's few things here. I like these LED lights. They kind of light up both ways. There's a mysterious button here. This one. It has a door, and all it does is if you press and hold it, it closes the door. I'm assuming if you get trapped here, maybe you can use that to open the door. That's what the intended purpose is. And then on this side, you do have some buttons to release the third row. Now the third row on this one is power. Once I can see where it is, there it is. It's actually pretty fast, and it's automatic. One button press and it goes down, and look at the handle. Look at the headrest, sorry. The headrest comes down on its own. That is pretty cool. Now that is a lot of space. A little bit obstructed by the wheel well, so it's narrow, but it's pretty deep and tall. And then you have two more buttons to release the second row, which the best part about this is the second row is electric, which I was kind of shocked to see. Not a lot of manufacturers have this. It is definitely slower than the third row, but I can live with that. Because most manufacturers, the second row in their 3-row SUV is manual release. So it'll just unlatch it and it'll close. But watch this one. You can put them back up. That is actually pretty cool. And in this segment, this is kind of out of this segment. You can put the third row up as well. I like the nice touches. So this has this particular calligraphy trim has a very nice material on the headliner, but they didn't continue it down here, and that's what you want, because that material is not very strong. This is a much better suitable material, but they didn't just put plastic and that's it. I like this piece of aluminum. This car is very expensive, we'll talk about that, but it's out of the nice touches that I like. Let's take a look at the inside of the Ioniq 9. I gotta say one thing, if you're shopping one of these cars, I'm very serious. Start with the inside, then walk your way outside. Because the outside, you just take one good look at it, like, this is too strange for me. Make it here. Again, After a week or two, the looks, it's just another blob in the background. This is where things matter. This particular one is a calligraphy trim. I just gotta say one thing, their calligraphy trims at Hyundai, they just do them so well. The material choice and the execution here is impeccable. I love it. I mean, look at, you have some luxury cars that cost a lot more than this that doesn't have this. This very nice suede material all the way down the pillar. It's very nice. The layout of this interior, I feel like it's very easy on the eyes. That's the way I'm gonna put it. It's so well laid out. I love it. Let's start with the first thing you see when you get inside, the gauge and the infotainment. Usually I don't like gauges that are screened, but this integration, this new style they're using these days, I love it. It just looks like one continuous screen, very aesthetically pleasing. Doesn't feel like you just stuck an iPad somewhere. It feels very nice. The gauge is a screen. It does have decent functionality. Infotainment is pretty quick, pretty featureful. Does have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I have no complaints there. Steering wheel, I love how they kept it simple. This is a car you expect them to go overboard. They didn't. Very simple to operate steering wheel, physical button, everything. Won't take you more than 2 seconds to figure it out, honestly. Then what I love the most about this, see, this is the type of electric car that the manufacturers usually get carried away and just change everything. Not this one. I mean, look at the center area. You have physical buttons for your radio controls. You have this dedicated screen. All your HVAC controls are there. They're always there. I love that. Just because it's an electric car, it doesn't have to be strange. And then we go more than that. The center console, I love it. Has a wireless charger in the right place, wide open. Some more controls here, some storage. But the best part about it is this is a movable center console, so you can push it all the way back. If you have like a backpack or something, you can put it here, or you can move it all the way forward, and now you have your armrest back. I love that. Gives you options. And then you do have a lot of storage. You have storage here, a storage shelf that's kind of low down, glove box. The only thing that I wish was not the case is the vents. The vents are way too small, and no matter where you point them, it's always just, you're almost constantly changing their direction. They're too small. That's part of the design, unfortunately. That's one part where because of the design, they had to cross into functionality and affect it. The other thing is the shifter. Hyundai's been doing that with their electric cars. Shifter is backwards. We're used to reverse being up, drive down. This one is the other way around. I can understand their theory, like this is forward and this is backward, but why couldn't we make it like every other car? That would have been nice. Start button is on the shifter stock. Initially, I looked at that, I'm like, that's strange. But as I started driving it, I actually like it. I mean, it's not a big deal. As soon as you sit in the driver's seat, it's right in front of you. Just push the button and then push the button. I actually like that. Smart. Driving this car, it's very comfortable, very insulated. It just feels, I don't know how to describe it, but you get in certain cars, it just feels right. This feels right. The visibility is good. The ride is refined. It's comfortable. It's not exhilarating or anything. It's pretty fast, but that's not its ended purpose. It works. And what makes me like it even more is not just a gimmicky electric car that feels nice, looks nice, but it isn't functional. It's super functional. And I really like that. We're just going to start here by saying this is one of the biggest back doors I have seen in many cars. Very comfortable to enter into the second row. And there's something about the second row. I'm 5'7", this is my driving position. I mean, yeah, super comfortable. To a level where they actually thought this might be chauffeur driven, because this seat has controls on the side of it to move it forward. It's pretty interesting. There's a lot of stuff here, and this is the cool part. First, this seat is power. Not only power, it has a little recliner. That's actually pretty cool, this calligraphy trim. You do have a manual shade, perfectly fine. Vents on the roof. Here is the more interesting part. You have a giant storage bin, that drawer that comes out of the center console. That's actually pretty cool. But not only that, you can open this center console from the back. so you can have access to it as well. You have your independent climate zone here, heated and cooled seats in the back, USB-C on the seats. I really like this second row. If you're gonna do it and ask this kind of price, that's how you do it. Because I see a lot of luxury cars that cost about the same, this one decked out, or even cost more. They didn't think of everything like this one did. Let's take a look at the third row seat in the Ioniq 9. I have to be honest, I didn't fit here from the position we filmed in the second row seat. I had to move the seat a little bit forward. Still plenty of space for the person in front. This is not a big third row seat, and this is to be expected in this segment. You only have seating for two. Pretty tight here, pretty steep angle for my thigh. However, you do have some amenities. You have USB-C outlets on both sides. The back of this seat is adjustable, which is pretty cool. But entrance and exit is, because of the electric seat, there's a button here that just moves the seat. I gotta say, you know, we talked about when we were on the outside that this was nice that you can fold the second row, but electric seats for your kids might not be the best thing. But the coolest thing is this is a captain chair and they don't have any silly console in the middle, so they can just go this way and sit in the back. Because really, this third row is meant for kids. I don't think adults will sit here comfortably for a long time. So, the Ioniq 9. It is safe to say that this is basically a Hyundai Santa Fe electric, down to these strange looks. This one different, but still strange. I gotta say one thing, this is such an impressive three-row SUV. Truth have to be said, beyond the looks and all that, if you're shopping for a three-row SUV electric, this should be at the top of your list for the following reasons. First, unlike Tesla, for example, beyond the strange look and everything, it's a normal car inside. Shifter, a little bit strange, takes a second to get used to. Start button, I actually like the position of it. But everything else is normal. They're not shy of putting physical buttons to keep your life simple. HVAC controls have a dedicated panel just for it. There's physical buttons everywhere. Things are normal. It's just a normal car. Normal handles. Yeah, the outside has the strange handles. But on the inside, everything is normal. It's a normal car. That's the best part about it. But it's not shy of modern technology because it has a lot, but not gimmicks. I like that. This is what people want. Nice modern touches, not gimmicks. This does not have a lot of them, and it has everything going for it to have every single gimmick in the planet. I really commend that. But more importantly than all that, the electric system behind the scenes. I really like that Hyundai is moving in the right direction, and it shows in this. Folks, this is a giant behemoth. Might not look like it, but it is giant. This is a three-row SUV with space in the back. It's a pretty big car. But because of the improvements of the electric system, all the three potential configurations you can have this at, they get over 300 miles of range. And they hold up their range pretty decent. That's pretty cool. Now, the only two downsides. Nothing is perfect in life. First, the looks. I feel like, just like the Santa Fe, this is one of those cars when you go check one out, if you're interested in it, close your eyes, walk inside of it, see the inside, then try to live with the outside. Because if you can get past the strange looks, especially in the back, it's actually a pretty decent SUV. That's the truth. The second thing is, after you have gotten past the looks, especially in this particular color, yeah, not my favorite color or favorite looking car, the price. There's a problem there. At the lowest trim, you're just under $60,000. At the highest trim with some options, you're almost at $80,000. Now you are seriously in the territory of some serious electric cars or cars in general. That's the only problem. I mean, this calligraphy trim is beautiful. This is out of this segment. Hyundai has always done the calligraphy trim well. But now the price, usually we say, but the price justifies it. Well, this one is pretty expensive. There's pros, there's cons. I'll leave the decision to you, but in my book, they're moving in the right direction. I would like to congratulate Hyundai for taking their electric system in the right direction. I love it. The only thing is, 100% of the buyers of this car would not have cared if it didn't look that strange, especially in the back. Just small note. Folks, I hope this video was helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some other videos. Until the next video, folks, May the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.